My name is Ariana Cole, 36 years old, and I wasn't supposed to be standing alone outside the ballroom doors on the biggest night of my husband's career. I was supposed to be on his arm. I was supposed to be front row. I was supposed to be the woman he thanked on stage, the one he always called the foundation of everything. Instead, I stood there clutching my clutch like it was the only thing tethering me to the floor, staring at a massive banner that read, Cole Tech Annual Charity Gala, with Jacob's face plastered across it. His smile was the same one he used with donors, investors, and interviewers. Polished, warm, trustworthy. I knew that smile better than I knew my own reflection. Tonight, it felt like a threat. The doors opened, and the room exploded with applause, camera flashes, and orchestral music. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I walked in, and instantly people turned. The wives, the executives, the board members. They knew me. They knew I was Jacob's wife. They knew tonight was the night he was supposed to honor me with a special award for my community projects. So when the applause suddenly shifted to a confused murmur, I felt it before I saw it. Jacob wasn't on stage alone. He was standing beside her, Megan, in a deep emerald dress, my dress. One I had let her borrow 3 years ago when she was sleeping on my couch and trying to rebuild her life. She looked like she belonged on that stage. Confident, straight-backed. No trace of the embarrassed, grateful girl who used to leave thank-you notes on my fridge. Jacob had his arm around her waist. For a moment, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The air thickened, hot and metallic, like a panic attack wrapped in humiliation. Then Jacob spoke into the microphone, unaware I had walked in. This year's gala is dedicated to someone who has inspired me more than she'll ever know, he said. Someone who stood by me, encouraged me, and helped shape this entire initiative. The crowd clapped politely. Megan smiled shyly, as if she didn't know exactly what she was doing. I stepped forward, slow, controlled, refusing to be the stunned, trembling woman his betrayal wanted me to become. The room parted for me like water. Some people recognized me and stiffened. Others whispered. A few raised phones. The vultures always came early. Jacob didn't see me until the applause faded. His eyes darted toward the movement in the room, and when he spotted me, he froze. The kind of freeze that says, I've been caught in the only moment I prayed she'd never see. He swallowed hard. The microphone picked it up with a soft click. Ariana, he stammered. You're early. Early? He had told me the award presentation would be at the end. Now he was giving it, or something like it, at the beginning. I walked closer. Every step drained another piece of my naivety. Megan stepped back, only slightly, then readjusted herself, pretending to be innocent, pretending she had no idea how inappropriate this was. But I knew that dress. She didn't even bother returning it after she moved out. She just faded from my life, from her thank you text messages, and apparently right into my husband's arms. Jacob, I said softly, what is this? He cleared his throat, putting on the executive voice he used when he was cornered. This is not what it looks like. Oh? Because it looks like my husband is presenting his wife's award with the woman who used to sleep on our couch. Gasps, whispers, more phones lifted. Megan's face drained of color. Jacob stepped down from the stage, abandoning the mic, but not fast enough. The speakers still captured the tail end of his words. Ariana, not here. Let's talk privately. Why? You seemed comfortable enough presenting her in public. Eyes widened. Someone in the front row muttered, Oh my God. Jacob placed a hand near my arm, but I pulled back sharply. Don't you dare, I said quietly. Not after this. He chased me with a panicked whisper. It's nothing. You're blowing this. Nothing? My voice didn't rise, but it cut. You brought her on my night. The music stopped entirely. Everyone was listening. A woman from the board, Evelyn, I think, stood up halfway, as if deciding whether to intervene. But even she stayed frozen, watching. Jacob tried to laugh it off. This is being taken out of context. What's the context? Someone in the back shouted it before I could. Megan flinched. She clutched her clutch like it shielded her from the truth. I stepped closer to Jacob, my voice low but slicing clear enough for every microphone to capture. You had one responsibility tonight. One. To honor our work. To honor the charity we built. That I built. And instead, you brought the woman I housed, fed, clothed, and trusted, and stood her next to you as if she earned anything. Jacob's jaw tensed. He whispered, "Stop making a scene." "Oh no," I said. "This is your scene. I'm just finishing it." I lifted my hand before I even consciously decided to. The room sucked all the air into one collective inhale. The slap echoed across the ballroom like a dropped microphone. Megan gasped. Jacob stumbled back, clutching his cheek. Flash, flash, flash. Photographers leaned forward as if they were waiting their whole careers for this moment. I turned to Megan. "You slept on my couch," I said. "Not on my husband." Her eyes darted down, lips trembling. Then I turned to the crowd. "Enjoy the show. It's the last time he'll ever stand on a stage with my name attached to his." I walked out without looking back. He called after me. I heard him. I heard everything. But I was already done listening. Outside, the cool night air hit my face like freedom. My hands shook, not from weakness, but from a clarity so sharp it felt like adrenaline made of steel. I wasn't the woman who let things slide anymore. By the time my car pulled up, I had only one thought left. Not fear, not heartbreak, not disbelief. A promise. He humiliated me publicly. I will dismantle him privately, thoroughly, completely, and he will never see it coming. I didn't meet Jacob as the polished executive he is now, or pretends to be. I met him when he was a 27-year-old software engineer with a clunky laptop, a half-formed startup idea, and a studio apartment that smelled like burnt ramen. I was working in PR back then, running campaigns for nonprofits, and he begged me to help him look legit before his first investor meeting. I said yes because I believed in him. I believed in us. For years, I was the strategist behind his public image, the one rewriting his press releases at midnight, reshaping his messy interviews, coaching him on how to speak with confidence. When his startup almost died in year 2, I used part of my grandmother's inheritance to keep it afloat. Not because he asked, because I was all in. Jacob always said, "We're a team, Ariana. I couldn't do this without you." He said it so often that I started to think maybe I mattered. And then Megan entered our lives. I met her through my coworker, who said Megan had been through a brutal breakup and had nowhere to go. She was 25, exhausted, carrying 2 garbage bags that held her entire life. I let her stay with us for a week, which turned into months. She cooked with me, folded laundry with me, followed me around like a shadow. She said I made her feel safe. Back then, she was timid. So timid she apologized for existing. She slept on the couch with a blanket I bought her. She borrowed my dresses because she had none. She cried on my shoulder more times than I can count. I helped her get a receptionist job. I helped her buy her first new phone. I helped her find an apartment when it was time for her to move out. I never saw the shift, the glances between her and Jacob, the way her confidence grew in the wrong directions, the late-night startup questions she asked him because he was easier to understand. I brushed off every red flag as insecurity, paranoia, or stress. And I was busy. Cold Tech was expanding fast, so was Jacob's ego. He started coming home later, dressing sharper, caring more about brand synergy than family dinners. I thought it was pressure from the investors. I thought it was burnout. I thought everything except the truth. That he was giving attention to someone who once asked me if it was okay to eat the last slice of pizza. The confirmation came the night of the gala after I stormed out. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages, friends, co-workers, even strangers. But the one that gutted me came from Nora, my closest friend since college. Nora. I didn't want to say anything until I was 100% sure. But Ariana, they've been together for months. I saw them at a cafe last week. He was holding her hand. I'm so sorry. I read it sitting in my parked car, tears blurring the dashboard lights. There it was. Not suspicion, not speculation. Confirmation. Everything I built with Jacob. The sacrifices, the money, the years, were tangled up in a betrayal so pathetic and predictable, it almost made me laugh. Almost. Because beneath the heartbreak was something else. Something sharper. A rising certainty that the life I had built for him, I could take back piece by piece, and I would. I didn't cry that night. Not one tear. Shock had burned through me at the gala. Humiliation had scorched whatever softness was left, and by the time I pulled into my driveway, something inside me had crystallized. Not rage, not devastation, precision. The kind of clarity a woman gets when she realizes the life she built is being used against her. I walked into the house, our house, though legally it was mine, and flipped on the kitchen light. Everything looked the same as it always did. The bowl of lemons on the counter, the vase of flowers I had bought that morning, the framed photo of Jacob and me from our 5th anniversary. Except now it all felt like a set I no longer belonged to. A stage where I had been playing the supportive wife while he rehearsed excuses. I set my clutch down, opened my laptop, and began. Step 1. Freeze the accounts. I logged into our joint bank account, the one Jacob used for business dinners, team outings, and apparently whatever fantasy life he was building with Megan. With 3 clicks, I transferred 80% of the balance into my private account and locked the rest behind a daily withdrawal limit so low it could barely buy a cup of coffee. A notification pinged. Transaction requires both signatures for reversal. Perfect. Step 2. Secure every document he thinks I forgot about. Marriage certificate, prenup notes, startup contracts, emails where he acknowledged my early financial contribution, proof that part of Coltech's initial funding came directly from me. I gathered everything, placed it in a folder, and tossed it into the bottom of a suitcase. Step 3. Call the lawyer. Not a lawyer. My lawyer, the one I met 2 years ago when a friend went through a nasty divorce and recommended her. I never thought I'd need her, but I kept the number anyway. Something in me always knew Jacob's ambition was sharp enough to cut. She picked up on the second ring. Ariana, it's late. Are you okay? No, I said calmly. But I'm ready. She didn't need details. The Gala clip had already gone viral. Before I even finished explaining, she was scheduling a morning meeting and instructing me what to screenshot, what to secure, and what to leave untouched so Jacob couldn't accuse me of tampering. Step 4. Pack. Not dramatically, not in a rush. I took only what was mine. My clothes, my work files, my toiletries, the jewelry my grandmother left me. I didn't touch anything Jacob had bought me. They weren't gifts anymore. They were props. As I zipped the suitcase, the garage door opened. Jacob. His footsteps were frantic, uneven. He rushed in, calling my name like he was the victim here. Ariana? Ariana, we need to talk. I stood in the hallway, suitcase beside me, face unreadable. He froze at the sight. Why are you packing? Can we go inside and talk like adults? I tilted my head. You talked enough tonight. He stepped closer, hands up like he was approaching a wild animal. Ariana, it wasn't what it looked like. You humiliated me publicly, I said. The consequences will be private. He blinked, caught off guard. You're overreacting. There it was, the final nail. I grabbed my suitcase handle, walked past him, and let my shoulder brush his. Not an accident, a warning. Jacob, I said quietly, you should check your bank app. His phone buzzed right then. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his face drained. What? Why is the account locked? Why is... Ariana, what the hell did you do? I didn't even turn around. First moves, I said. More are coming. Behind me, he spiraled, tapping furiously at the screen, muttering, swearing, pacing. But I was already outside, already done listening, already moving. Because I wasn't Jacob's foundation anymore. I was the earthquake he never prepared for. And the first cracks had just begun. The fallout started faster than I expected. I hadn't even finished my coffee at Nora's place when Jacob's name began trending online for all the wrong reasons. People had recorded everything at the gala. The moment I walked in, the way Megan froze in my dress, the slap, Jacob's stunned face. It all circulated within hours. My phone buzzed nonstop, but I ignored most of it. I wasn't ready to scroll through strangers analyzing my marriage. Instead, I watched from a distance as the first cracks spread. Jacob's morning began with his business card declining at a cafe. I didn't see it happen, but one of his co-workers sent Nora the details knowing she'd pass them to me. He had walked in with 2 investors, confident as always, and when the server told him the card didn't go through, the entire table went quiet. Jacob tried another one. Same result. He left without ordering anything. It wasn't about the coffee. It was about the embarrassment he never saw coming. A few hours later, the bank called me to confirm a series of frantic attempts he made to unlock the joint account. Since both signatures were required, nothing moved. I pictured him pacing in his office, running his hands through his hair, pretending to be calm while everything around him slipped out of his control. Meanwhile, Megan was dealing with her own consequences. People recognized her instantly from the gala footage. Some of her old co-workers messaged me screenshots from her social media, comments pouring in asking how she could do something so hurtful to someone who once helped her. She turned her account private, but it didn't matter. The internet had already copied everything. Whatever fantasy she thought she stepped into with Jacob was already crumbling. She went from trying to look elegant beside him to being pointed at as someone who betrayed the only person who had ever helped her. By midday, several board members from Coltech reached out to me privately, not for gossip, but for clarity. They had invested in Jacob because of the marriage he showcased as proof of stability. Now they were worried. I didn't say anything about the divorce yet. I didn't need to. Knowing I had frozen the accounts told me Jacob had already told them more than he intended. Then came the part I expected, but still felt strangely calm hearing. My lawyer informed me that Jacob tried to rush a meeting with his legal team, not because he wanted to fix our relationship, but because he realized I held documentation of my early investment into his company, proof he had never wanted publicly acknowledged. The moment he understood that, panic hit him harder than the slap. My lawyer told me he sounded unsettled. Not angry, not defensive, just unsettled. It was the first sign that my silence was doing more damage than a confrontation ever could. In the afternoon, Nora came home from work and handed me her phone. "He's outside your house," she said. A photo showed Jacob pacing on the front porch, phone in hand, looking completely lost. He wasn't banging on the door or shouting. He just stood there, staring at the windows like he expected me to walk out and pretend none of it happened. He called me again, then again, and again. I didn't answer. The last message he sent that day wasn't angry. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't full of excuses. It was one sentence. "Ariana, please come home so we can talk." There was no apology, no acknowledgement, no accountability. Just fear that I wasn't reacting the way he expected me to. He thought the slap was the peak of my anger. He didn't understand it was only the beginning of his consequences. I stayed at Nora's that night, sitting on her couch with a calm so steady it surprised both of us. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't doubt myself. For the first time in years, I felt clear. The storm he created was finally landing on him, and I didn't have to lift another finger for it to grow. 3 days passed before Jacob finally caught up to me in public. I knew it would happen eventually. A man like him doesn't process consequences quietly. He circles, he rehearses, he searches for the right place to perform regret without ever feeling it. It happened at a restaurant I used to love. Nora and I met there for lunch, and the moment I walked in, I already sensed movement behind me. The kind of restless, anxious pacing that comes with someone waiting to intercept you. I didn't turn around. I led Nora to our table, sat down, and opened the menu as if I hadn't heard him. "Ariana," Jacob said, voice low but urgent. Please, just 5 minutes. Nora lifted her eyes at me, silently asking if I wanted her to leave. I shook my head. I wanted her there. I wanted a witness who wouldn't rewrite the moments in her head later. Jacob stepped closer to the table. Can we talk privately? He said. I didn't look up from the menu. This is fine. He hesitated. He wasn't used to me choosing the setting. He looked around, aware of the people staring. Someone whispered. Someone else took out their phone. He hated being watched unless he was controlling the narrative. He sat down across from me without asking. You're hurting both of us by dragging this out, he said. Nora let out a quiet breath like she couldn't believe he said it out loud. I set down the menu and finally looked at him. You humiliated me in front of hundreds of people and the entire internet. And you're concerned that I'm dragging things out? It wasn't like that, he insisted. I told you. You told me nothing, I cut in. You told the entire room that Megan inspired you. You brought her on stage during a tribute meant for me. He winced. Not because of guilt, because of how it sounded when spoken plainly. Okay, but we can't fix anything if you keep freezing me out. I need you to be reasonable. Reasonable. The word tasted bitter. Nora leaned forward slightly. Jacob, this is not the place. This is exactly the place, I said calmly. He chose his place when he made it public. Jacob exhaled sharply, impatient. Can we not do this with other people around? A voice from the left answered before I could. Well, you should have thought of that at the gala. We all turned. A woman at the next table gave Jacob a look that would have sent a steadier man hiding. The people around her nodded. He tried to smile it off, but the tension around him tightened. He looked back at me, eyes darting with desperation. Ariana, about the accounts, he began, lowering his voice. My board is nervous. Investors don't like sudden changes. Then you should explain to them what kind of changes you made without me, I said. His jaw clenched. Stop talking in riddles. Just tell me what you want. I leaned back, letting silence stretch, letting him wait, letting him feel the lack of power he once held so effortlessly. Then I said it, the sentence that shifted every face in the restaurant toward us. You should tell your board that the charity fund wasn't mismanaged by me. His eyes widened instantly. Ariana. But by you, I finished. A ripple moved through the room. Phones lifted higher. Jacob's voice cracked. You cannot say that out loud. I can say the truth anywhere, I replied. His face drained of color. He reached across the table, trying to lower my hands as if he could push the words back into my mouth. Do not do this. You know what people will think. They'll think they finally understand why I left, I said. Someone at another table quietly whispered, Is that true? Another murmured, It makes sense now. Jacob's breath shook. He looked around helplessly, then back at me with panic rising behind his eyes. Ariana, please. You're ruining my career. I didn't ruin it, I said. I just stopped protecting it. The room erupted into soft murmurs. A few people actually applauded under their breath. Not loud, but enough that Jacob heard the shift. He stood abruptly, chair scraping back. This isn't fair, he said. You're twisting everything. Welcome to life without a script, I replied. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to shout, defend himself, lecture me. But nothing came out. His confidence cracked. His composure collapsed. And then, the final blow landed without me saying a single word. Megan walked into the restaurant. She saw Jacob. She saw me. She saw everyone watching. And instead of going to him, she turned around and walked straight back out the door. Jacob stared at the exit as if the floor dropped beneath him. Silence fell between us. He whispered, What did you do? I stood up slowly. I told the truth. He didn't follow me. He didn't speak again. He just stood there, alone, cornered, exposed. And this time, the humiliation wasn't mine. It was entirely his. By the next morning, Jacob had moved from panic to strategy, the only skill he ever relied on when things slipped out of his hands. He tried calling me again, but I ignored every notification. What I didn't ignore were the messages piling up from people who had seen him online. Someone sent me a link to a live stream he had done earlier that day. I didn't watch it immediately. I wanted to see how far he'd go without me responding. When I finally opened it, I saw him sitting in his office, wearing a navy blazer and speaking in the soft, calm voice he used during interviews. He opened with a rehearsed smile. "This past week has been challenging for my family, and for me. I'd like to clarify some misunderstandings and rumors." Misunderstandings. Rumors. He was already rewriting the story. He went on to say he and I had been experiencing difficulties privately, hinting that the Gala moment had been misinterpreted. No responsibility, no honesty. Just carefully polished lines meant to look vulnerable, but crafted to protect him. He spoke for 6 minutes without saying the words, "I made a mistake." Not once. The comments section started off confused, then angry. Viewers weren't stupid. The footage from the restaurant had already made the rounds. The moment he froze when I mentioned the charity fund, the panic on his face, the way he tried to silence me. Still, he ended the live stream confidently, thanking his supporters and promising, "The full truth will come out soon." He had no idea that the full truth was already in motion, and not from him. An hour later, I received a text from someone I didn't expect. A former employee of his. Someone he had fired 2 years ago for lack of loyalty. He sent me screenshots of emails where Jacob talked about shifting charity expenses around to make the company look more generous than it actually was. Nothing illegal, but deeply misleading. The kind of thing that, when paired with the Gala footage and the restaurant confrontation, would burn his public image overnight. The former employee wrote, "He always acted like he was untouchable. Do what you want with these." I thanked him and sent everything to my lawyer. She told me not to post anything myself. That wasn't my role. My silence had more power than any statement. By midday, someone leaked the emails. Not me. Not my lawyer. Someone inside the company. The screenshots hit social media first, then the forums, then journalists picked them up. Articles were published in real time, headlines questioning Jacob's integrity, asking how long the financial misrepresentation had been happening, asking who else knew. People were already angry after the Gala. They were furious after the restaurant. Now they were relentless. Hashtags formed within minutes. Coal cover-up, Hotstar, Galagate. Who is the real? Jacob sponsors released short public statements. They were reviewing recent developments, a polite way of saying they were preparing to distance themselves. Then a compilation video surfaced on TikTok. The Gala humiliation, the restaurant confrontation, and the leaked emails stitched together with dramatic captions. 18 million views in under 2 hours. I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't feeling victorious. I felt steady, calm, like truth was finally taking its rightful place. Jacob tried another strategy in the afternoon. He posted a long paragraph on his personal account about miscommunication in his marriage and false accusations. It sounded defensive, strained, desperate. The comments turned brutal within minutes. Your wife helped build your company. You humiliated her in front of everyone. You're only sorry because you got caught. You should apologize publicly, not defend yourself. People weren't buying what he was selling. And for the first time, Jacob didn't have enough charm to shift the narrative. Then Megan tried to speak. She posted a short video on her account. Shaky, rushed, clearly filmed in a panic, saying she never intended to get involved in a marriage that was falling apart. Within 30 seconds, someone stitched the video with a photo of her sleeping on my couch from years ago, the one she posted herself when she wrote, "Blessed to have found kindness." Comments exploded. You betrayed the woman who saved you. You're not innocent. Stop pretending you didn't know. Go apologize to her, not to us. She deleted the video. She deleted her entire profile. But it didn't matter. Screenshots spread instantly. By evening, Jacob's PR team sent him a formal message recommending he step back from public visibility until the situation stabilized. It was a polite way of saying he was damaging himself more by talking. An hour later, a board member called me personally, not to gossip, to apologize. She said, "Ariana, I don't know all the details, but I can tell you this. His version and the truth don't match, and people within the company are scared of what else might come out." It wasn't a confession. It was acknowledgement. The story had shifted completely. He wasn't the wronged husband trying to clear up a misunderstanding. He was the man who broke trust, mismanaged image funds, lied publicly, and underestimated the woman who helped build the foundation he had just shattered. The final blow came just before midnight. A journalist released a short investigative clip summarizing Jacob's week, ending with a simple line, "Behind every public scandal, there is a private truth." And this time, the truth didn't side with him. I watched the clip once, closed my phone, and set it aside. Jacob had wanted a polished narrative. What he got instead was reality, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. And it was only going to get worse for him. The morning the legal process officially began, Jacob still believed he could talk me out of it. He showed up at my lawyer's office unannounced, wearing the same blazer he always used for investor meetings, like he thought dressing the part would change the outcome. It didn't. I sat across the table from him, my lawyer beside me, while his attorney flipped through documents with the stiffness of someone preparing for a storm. Jacob kept trying to catch my eyes. I didn't give him that. My lawyer began with the simplest truth. Ariana is filing for divorce, and we're moving forward immediately. Jacob exhaled hard, shaking his head. Ariana, please. This is extreme. We can still fix things. My lawyer didn't even flinch. There is nothing to fix. There is only what needs to be done. He swallowed, glancing at the folder in front of him, the one that detailed every financial investment I made into his company in the early years. The one he pretended didn't exist. You're claiming you financially contributed to my startup, he said quietly. I'm not claiming, I replied. I'm confirming. He shifted in his seat. His attorney cleared his throat. She has bank statements, emails, transfer records. Jacob looked between the two of us, realizing the thing he feared most. I had receipts he couldn't rewrite. The atmosphere in the room changed after that. His attorney's tone became more cautious, more respectful. Mine became sharper. The power dynamic had flipped completely. My lawyer laid out the terms, clean, calm, unemotional. I would retain the house. I would retain my inherited assets. I would receive compensation for my documented early funding. I would be granted majority rights to any shared properties. Jacob's jaw tightened. You're gutting me, Ariana. You're taking everything. I stayed steady. I'm taking back what I built. The meeting ended with no agreement. But the line had been drawn. By the end of that week, things escalated faster than either of us expected. Tech held an emergency board meeting. For years, Jacob had sold them a picture-perfect family life as part of his leadership image. The stable marriage, the steady partnership, the quiet, dependable wife. Now that picture was shattered, and the board feared what else could come out. They didn't fire him outright, but they did something worse for his pride. They suspended him. Pending review, the notice said. A suspension meant uncertainty. Uncertainty meant instability. And instability meant investors hesitated. Not because of the company's numbers, but because Jacob himself had become a liability. He went from being the face of Tech to being removed from all promotional material overnight. His assistant, who had once worshipped him, leaked a detail to someone who leaked it to me. Jacob spent most of that day sitting in his office with the lights off, staring at the wall, saying nothing. He finally understood how fast a reputation can collapse. Megan, on the other hand, didn't survive the fallout at all. Her company released a short statement saying she had resigned. Everyone knew what it really meant. She was asked to leave. She couldn't walk into a coffee shop without whispers. She couldn't update her profile without comments flooding in. She disappeared from social media entirely. That was the last I heard of her. Then came the part Jacob never expected. His own family turned on him. His mother sent me a long, apologetic message, not defending him, not excusing him, simply expressing disappointment in his behavior. She wrote, "I don't know who he has become, but I always knew who you were. I'm so sorry you were hurt like this." His father was colder. He called Jacob irresponsible, careless, and reckless. He told him he had embarrassed the family name and jeopardized their reputation. He told him he would not be stepping in to help with legal fees or financial gaps. Jacob's brother, the one who used to brag about him constantly, quietly removed photos of the two of them from his business website. The isolation was happening in real time. Every bridge Jacob thought he controlled collapsed behind him. Meanwhile, my life was reorganizing itself with precision. My lawyer pressed forward aggressively. The court reviewed my documentation. Friends rallied behind me. Reporters stopped trying to reach me after it became clear I wouldn't speak. My silence never felt like avoidance. It felt like strength. Jacob tried one last tactic, sending me a long email full of mixed apologies and excuses. It talked about stress, confusion, miscommunication, pressure. A blend of soft words that didn't mean anything because none of them addressed the truth. He betrayed me, publicly and privately. I didn't respond. The court date moved closer. The divorce terms became solid. His finances continued shrinking. By the time the judge approved the temporary orders, Jacob was renting a small apartment near his office because he could no longer afford the penthouse he had been eyeing. The life he tried so desperately to project was caving in on him, and I was watching it all unfold with a calm clarity I never expected to feel. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about balance, the kind that arrives when truth finally outweighs lies. Jacob had built a life on an image. I had built one on reality. And reality was winning. The final confrontation didn't happen in a dramatic courtroom showdown or at another public event. It happened in the most ordinary place possible, the empty house I once called home. The court had scheduled the final walkthrough for the division of personal items, and since the house was legally mine, Jacob was only allowed supervised access to pick up what he was permitted to take. My lawyer couldn't be there, but a court-appointed representative was stationed in the driveway to monitor. I arrived early. Jacob arrived late. The moment he stepped out of his car, I saw it. The exhaustion in his shoulders, the fading confidence in his eyes, the weight of a life he no longer controlled. His clothes hung on him differently, like he had shrunk inside them. He walked toward the door with a slow, cautious hesitation, as if he expected the house itself to reject him. "Ariana," he said quietly. I nodded, unlocking the door without inviting him in. "Let's make this quick." He stepped inside and looked around like he was seeing memories he didn't deserve to keep. The framed photos were gone. My belongings were gone. The warmth was gone. Only the walls remained. "I never thought it would end like this," he said, voice low. "You made sure it would," I replied. He flinched but didn't argue. Instead, he walked into the living room, the place where we once hosted friends, where Megan once sat laughing at my jokes, where everything began unraveling long before I noticed. "I didn't come here to fight," he said. "Good," I answered. "Because I'm done fighting." He turned toward me. "I lost everything. You lost everything you prioritized over us." He ran a hand through his hair, breathing deeply, clearly trying to hold himself together. "I made mistakes, Ariana, but you didn't give me a chance to explain." "I gave you years of chances," I said evenly. "I ignored red flags, excuses, late nights, odd behavior, all of it. And every time I trusted you. That trust is why you thought you could stand on a stage with someone I once helped and pretend nothing was wrong." His eyes lowered. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't mean to get caught," I corrected. He took that hit without speaking. We walked through different rooms as he grabbed the last of his approved items. A few shirts, some personal electronics, a box labeled work things. Nothing sentimental. He had lost rights to anything else through the court's decision. In the bedroom, he paused at the doorway. "This used to be our place," he whispered. "It used to be," I agreed. "I know you won't believe me, but I really did love you." I looked at him, truly looked. Not at the man he tried to appear, but at the man he actually was. Someone who wanted the comfort of loyalty without offering any in return. "You loved the version of me who carried your ambition," I said calmly. "When I stopped carrying it, you replaced me." His face crumpled for the first time, not with rage or denial, but with the realization that I wasn't going to soften. We returned to the living room, standing several feet apart like two people who once shared a life, but now shared only silence. He tried again. "Can't we rebuild something from this? Even if it's not the same?" "Jacob, you didn't just betray me. You broke the foundation of your own life. I won't stand on rubble with you." He looked down, defeated. "I didn't expect you to become this cold." I swallowed, not harshly, but with a truth I needed him to hear. "I'm not cold. I'm done." He stared at me, searching for a trace of softness he could use. A window, a weak spot. But the woman who once protected him no longer existed. A long silence stretched between us. Then he spoke the line that revealed everything he still didn't understand. "Ariana, please, don't leave me alone like this." There it was. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I regret what I did." Not, "I understand." Just fear of being alone. Fear of consequence, not remorse. I walked toward the doorway, pausing beside him. "You weren't alone," I said quietly. "You pushed away the only person who ever stood by you." He blinked rapidly, eyes glistening even though he tried to hide it. "I didn't know what I had until—" "I'm not your lesson," I cut in. "I'm your ending." He closed his eyes. A single tear slid down before he could wipe it away. I stepped back, opening the door. The representative outside glanced in to confirm we were finished. Jacob didn't move. He looked at me with a mixture of disbelief and desperation. "Ariana? Is this really it?" "Yes," I said. "This is it." He shook his head slightly, as if trying to wake up from a reality he created. "Please, don't do this." I held his gaze one final time. Not with anger, not with love, but with absolute clarity. "You already did it," I said. "I'm just walking away from it." He took one step toward me, reflexively, instinctively, but I held up a hand. "No more." His breath broke. His shoulders dropped, and the last of his pride fell with them. I stepped outside. The door clicked shut behind me, a soft, final sound. The representative nodded, signaling that the process was complete. Jacob remained inside, alone in the house he once believed he controlled. And I walked away with the only thing he could never reclaim: my freedom. 6 months later, my life didn't look anything like the one I left behind. And that was the point. I moved into a bright apartment near the coast, a place with open windows, morning light, and silence that felt peaceful instead of tense. I rebuilt my PR career on my own terms, picking clients whose values matched mine, not ones I had to pretend to admire. Work became steady, then exciting, then genuinely fulfilling. Nora visited often. We sat on my balcony drinking tea, laughing about things that once felt impossible to recover from. Little by little, my days stopped revolving around what had happened and started revolving around what I was creating. Jacob faded from my life in the same way a storm fades after it's done tearing through everything, slowly, quietly, leaving only a distant echo of the damage he caused. I heard things in passing. He moved out of his temporary apartment, accepted a smaller job at a company outside the city, stopped attending public events. People no longer discussed him with fascination or respect. His name became something whispered, not celebrated. Megan disappeared entirely. No social media, no updates, just gone. And me? I felt stronger, lighter, sharper. Not because revenge changed me, but because it revealed me. I learned I could walk away from the version of myself who tolerated excuses and build a life grounded in clarity instead of hope. One evening, while watching the sun dip behind the buildings, I thought about everything that had happened. Not with bitterness, but with certainty. Betrayal didn't break me. It freed me. And for the first time in years, I felt exactly what I deserved to feel. Untouched by the past. Unafraid of the future. Completely, undeniably free. Thank you for tuning in to the Velvet Revenge channel. If you enjoyed my story, hit that hype button and subscribe to the channel. See you soon.